Thank you for tuning in to today's Back to the City. Today I am honoured and excited to be joined by Liestman of the act RION.
That's right.
Spelled R-I-O-N.
Like a lion. Yeah.
Like a lion?
Like a lion in Zion, yeah.
Ah, excellent. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that is a collaborative project, is that right? Of you and
yeah,
Michael?
I mean, yeah,
Michael
in a lot of ways it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Michael and I, Michael Bland, who's I think most notable as one of Prince's longtime drummers, also part of
Which
Solo
is New Power
Solo.
Generation,
Him and I have been working together for a long time on lots of different projects, including most of the things I've done. But this one in particular, we wrote a lot of the songs together and produced it together.
Yeah.
So.
And so we'll be taking a track-by-track journey through the new record.
Yeah.
But we'll also touch on some other activities that you have with Michael.
Yeah.
Including Sonic Matrimony.
Yeah.
So what is Sonic Matrimony?
That is, it's really just, I mean, it started, I think, as a collaborative in general for stuff Michael was working on. But it...
A production company
Yeah.
of Michael's?
Yep. But I was, I guess, there the whole time. And so basically it's, I mean, it really is just the two of us at this point, and always pretty much has been. But it's, we try to write with the artists from the get-go.
Yeah.
And produce the tracks and have like an all-inclusive thing.
That came through very clearly when I was researching the website. There were comments from the two of you about how you feel transformed by as a result of the process of working on any project with the artist.
Yeah.
And you're putting the artist first and trying to help them speak their truth, whatever their
That's
truth
right.
is.
Yeah. So it's kind of like half. What do you call that? It's like going to the therapist or something.
Yes.
And we're the default therapists.
That's a good
we have no.
analogy.
What do you call it? We have no right to be there as such. But we try to get stories out of people, and you have to kind of get into someone's life a little bit to find the interesting parts and maybe find some stuff that maybe they've wanted to talk about but didn't know exactly how to say it, or maybe they haven't thought about talking that. Maybe they thought it was too embarrassing, or maybe not even compelling or something. But
sure. So, something the way in which Michael put it on the website is lead with what's real.
That's right.
It more often than not makes for a more interesting story all the way around.
It does, yeah.
So in your case, let's lead with what's real.
Yeah.
How is that philosophy being applied in the case of this new record, The Wickedest?
It's just kind of where I'm at right now. I've done a lot of other types of projects in the past. This is the first time where I'm going on stage and performing just solo, so that's a big difference, and I think in that sense it gives me a lot of freedom to really have every aspect of it under my control. You know what I mean? But
so because you had the band The Rule since being a teenager, which included Jacob. What's Jacob's last name?
Hansen. Yeah.
Which included Jacob Hansen, who was in 12 Rods, has played with Haley. And so could you tell me a little bit about the genesis of that band, how that band came to be? Because that, I think, will introduce a number of some of the cast of characters that have been important in your
along.
career.
Originally it was just I started doing my own stuff, writing my own songs, and I think I had met Jake. I'm not even sure where. I think through high school friends. But we went to different high schools, so it was through mutual friends, and we just kind of clicked on a musical level and put together a group of people and just started playing. I think his dad was a musician as well.
Okay.
So he was booking us all the time, like out in the western suburbs and like small towns just outside the city. So we were pretty young. I want to say we were like 15 or 16, and we were playing in bars like every Friday, Saturday night. We were booked somewhere. You know what I mean? And it kind of got us I don't know, just a lot of experience under the belt at a really young age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at the age of 16, you made your first EP. Was that with The Rule, or that was prior to The Rule?
That was, I think, kind of simultaneous.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like the live show basically was what became The Rule. You know what I mean? At that
so
time.
Those were the songs that then...
We were probably already playing some of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was produced by your mentor, Wayne McFarlane.
That's right,
of Ipso Facto.
Yeah.
So already at that stage, in your mid-teens, you had been learning keys, which you would go on to play with the Jonas Brothers.
Right.
Under the tutelage of Tommy Barbarella.
That's also right, yeah.
So, and then, can you before we dive into the songs on the new recording, could you say a little bit about that first EP that you put out? Who was playing on that? So this is pre The Rule?
This is pre The Rule, although it might have been in the same time period, like some of those. I'm sure Jake and I were playing gigs together by then. But for that record, it was, I think the cast of characters was, it was Michael and Tommy and...
So Michael Bland and Tommy Barbarella playing on your record when you were 15.
When I was 15, yeah. And Mike Scott was playing guitar, who's also a Prince alumni. And we actually got Vernon Reid in on that too. He came in and did a solo on one of the tracks. So that was, it was pretty cool. It was a fun time. It was a whole new experience for me at that point. I had never really been in a recording situation like that.
And then to jump into that situation.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I remember too, because I was pretty young and I didn't really know Michael yet. I just met him briefly a few times. And I remember we were in the studio and Michael was on his microphone, like by his drum kit, just like, is that okay? Like, what am I, like, is this on the verse? Should I do this or this? And I was like, I'm a 16, 15-year-old kid, and I was intimidated, and I was like, I don't really, talk back, Mike. I think whatever you think is good is probably the best, And I remember Tommy pulled me aside after that, and he's like, Ryan, like, Michael's really one of the best drummers in the world, but you have to give him direction, like in general, like it's your record, and it's that's what he's a professional, and part of the reason he's a professional is because he's catering to the needs of the artist. You know what I mean? And in that experience, I learned about that. Yeah.
Wow. So it's related to that. Something else that Michael said on the website is that as a drummer, one knows how to listen. If you're a good drummer, then it's necessary to listen to what the artist brings to the table, to know how to listen, to know how to interject. And he was explaining, like, on the website for Sonic Matrimony, how there is therefore this natural development from the work of a good drummer to the work of a good producer.
Yeah, it's almost the same thing. You know what I mean? It's the same headspace. Yeah.
So how has your and Michael's relationship developed from that first experience in the studio, when you learned from Tommy how to communicate with musicians who are playing on your music, to now where you and Michael have Sonic Matrimony together, and you have musicians coming in, and the tables have turned. Now you and Michael are working together with musicians who come in.
Yeah, I don't know. It was kind of a quick transition. I had to be, even when I was younger, I was doing a lot. Like, my living was music still. So like I was it was my main job. So most of the musicians I was working with were quite a bit older than me, and they were all professionals, and this is what they do. And it was kind of, I was thrust into a situation where I had to be a leader, otherwise nobody was going to take me seriously. You know what I mean?
And some of those individuals are Stevie Wonder, Miley, Cyrus, Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
So these are the people that we're talking about. By that stage, you were in the roles that Michael had been in for you. Is that
right?
Is
exactly.
That correct?
Yep.
Because
where you're backing somebody up and you're trying to give them what it is they need, and not only that, but enhance what's going on around you, and you know, trying to find that balance of what do they need and what do they maybe need that they don't even know about.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And of course, the artist that you have spent the longest amount of time in that role with is the Jonas Brothers.
Jonas Brothers, yeah.
So how did you end up being the keyboardist for the Jonas Brothers to begin with?
Yeah.
And are there any specific things that you learned about the art of producing and creating music through playing with them for 7 years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, originally I got a call from John Fields.
Yep.
Yeah. And he, you know, I don't even know if he called me or if he called Michael first and said something about like we need a young guy who can play and sing and play guitar and like play keys, guitar, sing and stuff.
Sure.
And they're kind of looking for a full-time member. Like this isn't just like a jump on a tour and then go on to the next thing sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think John and I had known each other, but not super well. Mm-hmm. We knew each other mainly through Tommy Barbarella. Mm-hmm. And Michael was like, well, Ryan would be perfect for that. And he's like, oh yeah, Ryan, like, yeah, let's send me a few things and I'll send it on to them. And so that's how it ended up. The initial connection was, yeah.
Sure.
And so to make it quick, they ended up flying me out on John's recommendation to New York to audition. Mm-hmm. And it went well, and here we are. But I was the only one auditioning, so that was really it. You know.
Right. So Michael and John were quite sure that you were the right person.
Yes, yes, and they were in response to that. They had so much respect for John that they were like, okay, well, we'll send this guy out, and we're not going to look at anybody else until we've gone through this first. Yeah.
Are there specific things that you learn throughout the 7-year process of performing with Jonas Brothers?
Oh yeah, I mean so much. I don't know how to sum it up, but you know, some of it relates to that backing musician artist relationship, but a lot of it is just the amount of things we did and places we went, and that just the amount of shows we played, it just kind of puts you in a different headspace as far as a performer and how do you play to 30,000 people every night kind of thing, you know, what works and what doesn't and what's effective, and I feel like I learned a lot about that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've been talking a lot about the difference between being the primary songwriter and being a backing musician. And as you've highlighted with RION, this is the first project where you were the only person, in terms of the live performance,
right.
It is just you.
It is just me.
When did you make that decision, and has that affected the songwriting process?
It definitely
what
has.
The project is?
It definitely did.
So?
Well, I have a fair amount of interest and fan base in South America and some in Europe and different places that we used to tour a lot with Jonas Brothers. And so one of the things was like, well, how do I get down to these places and in an effective way? You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to bring a band. It's not cost effective, and really the goal is to get people. I like music that makes you move, anyways.
Yes.
So it's like it was an excuse to try something that was more electronic and to have more of an incorporative show with the visuals that we have, and I do break it down and play instruments too. So it's not entirely just bumping tracks all the time, but it is part that, and without that I don't think we could do what we're doing. You know what I mean? And
it was called the Dance Party Tour.
It's called the Dance Party Tour. Yeah.
And that strikes me as particularly significant. So let's dive into a specific song, Linda.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of reflection on the relationship between music and rich human relations in that song.
Yeah.
Almost one is a kind of metaphor for the other, or there's a special connection between the two.
Yeah.
Lyrics include I won't disturb the groove, so establishing a certain kind of musical relation is being used as perhaps the perfect metaphor to think about relations in general.
Sure.
This is more than just a dance. You reflect in the lyrics too.
Yeah.
But dancing, even though in this scenario it's something more than a dance is happening, dancing seems to have a special significance. So within that song, and more broadly, with the tour having been called the Dance Party Tour, what is the broader significance of dancing for you?
Oh, dancing is, I mean, for me, it's one of the oldest and purest forms of human expression. You know what I mean? It's that and music in its most basic sense is just singing and maybe drumming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
so there's movement of the body.
Yeah,
is essential for music.
It's essential for music, and it's essential for, I mean, any civilization throughout human history is dancing. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean that all music has to be dance music, but it does mean that that's an element of music that has always attracted me. You know, that idea from the beginning in Africa to just drums and dancing around the fire to now where we are today. You know what I mean? To going to like a rave somewhere, or to go into a dance hall, you know, where they're playing the latest out of Jamaica or something. It's all the same. It's coming from that same feeling of the beginning of time.
Yeah. You reference in the song, we can do the salsa, the rumba, the tango. So there are references to all of these different styles of dancing. You were referencing different styles of music. I find it really interesting that you refer to dancing as the most essential form of communication. In going back to Michael's comment about leading with what's real, it seems like there is this recurring focus on communication and on successful communication or unsuccessful communication throughout the record. Would you agree? Is that if I were to if you were to be coming into the studio and I was the producer trying to think, well, what's this artist? What's a focus? What's a real focus for this artist? To me, a recurring focus in many of the songs seems to be communication. Is that something you feel
absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting you look at it that way, but I do think that's a very fair assessment of what we were talking about.
Yeah. The song where that comes through the most, I think, is The Weekend. Which is a favorite track of both mine and yours.
All right, good.
This is not communication.
Right.
Is a lyric in that song.
Right.
So what is that song saying about communication, about both good and bad communication?
Well, I think, you know, that's, if I were to make it as simple as possible, we get caught up in our daily routine.
Yeah.
And sometimes when our routine is upset or disrupted, it's just that the thought of that alone is already upsetting. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Right? And so the idea being, can't we just get through the weekend with no drama? Like, could we just let's not worry about petty things. These things don't matter. Certain things in life just aren't that important. You know what I mean? It's not life or death. It's not, you know, if we can clean the house tomorrow, we can do this some other time, but it's important that we stay together and that we stay not only that, but that we stay positive. Yeah.
So this kind of, I find it interesting. So the song Linda is encapsulating the promising beginnings of a relationship.
Right.
I think.
Yeah.
So it begins with a dance.
It begins with that.
It's not just a dance. The dance, the way in which the dance is not just a dance, is that it's also the beginning of a romance or of a good interpersonal relation.
Yeah.
But it's not coincidental that this good interpersonal relation begins with a dance.
And that's what we do anyways. I mean, when we meet somebody,
sure,
That is a form of dance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Like the social dance.
The social dance. Getting to know each other. You're checking. You know what I mean? You might step forward.
Yeah.
Depending on how someone acts, you might step back. Depending on
And it's crucial that what was good and real there is preserved and nurtured. And it seems to me like The Weeknd is doing a really interesting thing in maybe 10 years into the relationship with Linda.
Yeah, later on, quite a bit down the road. Yeah.
Then please just remember that dance that we
have.
and let's make our life.
Let's focus. Dance. Let's make that the focus and not the. Exactly.
And there's like a plea or a petition for real communication. And that, again, that's why I found it interesting that you said that's what dancing is. Dancing is the most fundamental form of communication.
Absolutely.
That we have.
Yeah, you don't even need to speak the same language to dance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and often if we are speaking, we are speaking the same language. We find ourselves.
Sometimes that can get in the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what The Weeknd is recognizing. For whatever reason, the MO becomes, as it so often does, a return to well-worn debates.
Right.
And then the opening lyrics are, tune in, you're not even paying attention. What's the point? You don't care how you come off. Is that how you get off? So it's just kind of like saying, okay, let's just press pause for a moment. What's happening here, and how do we stop this happening?
Right.
And the answer is being given in the way that the question is being raised. We communicate better, like we did when we were dancing.